to raise taxes if we want to make a dent in the deficit. We have to do all three. The president wants to do all three. The Republicans only want to do one of those three things.
Well, unfortunately, the entitlement frame is a right-wing talking point that's become conventional wisdom in Washington. Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security are each quite different programs, structured quite differently, with quite different issues facing them. Social Security is, as far as the eye can see, about 6% of gross domestic product. It should be increased, not reduced.
But I mean, in
Medicare,
real terms,
Medicaid, or health care issues.
In real terms, what does this change do to the ability for a senior or someone who's disabled to make ends meet? I mean, has it been worked out what difference this will make?
Oh, absolutely. 2/3 of seniors rely on Social Security for half or more of their income. So the median income of seniors is $20,000. So what you're saying, 1/3 of seniors receive 90% or more of their income from Social Security, and what you're doing is benefits. So you're talking about a population that already is either in poverty or close to poverty, and their benefits are going to erode over time. And the cruel part is the older you get, when you've exhausted other resources, your health care needs are the highest, the cuts are the biggest because it's cumulative.
And there is actually, if you really are concerned about accuracy, there is a CPI-E which is being developed, I suppose, right?
And a number of members of the Senate and the House have proposed that, and that makes perfect sense.
So that's not on the agenda, or at the, I mean,
it's not in the president's budget. They're asking for the chain CPI, not the CPI-E.
And Ryan, it's not just seniors actually who are affected by this. There are tax implications for anyone earning $100,000 a year.
Right. And there's all disabled veterans are also impacted by this. But yeah, so it would raise $100 billion plus because people's incomes would grow faster than the tax brackets would increase. So you get what's called bracket creep. So it's similar to the alternative minimum tax, where you wind up paying a little extra tax over the years. So I talked to a couple of Republicans on the Hill about that today, and they seemed okay with that. You know, if they could get the pound of flesh out of Social Security, then they were okay with
the poorer in society paying more tax. Then, basically.
Well, everyone pays a little more.
But it's regressive in the way that it's structured.
It is regressive.
The earned income tax credit, which is a refundable tax credit for working poor, would be shrunk, and it would really hit hardest middle income and low income taxpayers. So you're saying
these are the ones rich are already mostly
they will be paying more during their working years because of the chain CPI, then they'll get less in their retirement years because of the chain CPI.
Well, let's continue our textual analysis of these three paragraphs then on page 46. Switching to the chain CPI, the budget goes on, which will reduce deficits and improve Social Security solvency, has been proposed in almost every major bipartisan deficit reduction plan put past several years. And then it goes on to name a few, including Bowles-Simpson, which many people have heard of, and so forth. So then there is this pretty explicit linking then between Social Security and deficits there, Simon. Isn't that where the danger lies then? Is when you start putting those two words together, or those three words together, deficit, Social Security.
As I said, I think the president. We're doing contextual analysis.
Yeah.
I think he tipped his hand in the first sentence, which is they're doing this as what they believe to be a political olive branch to the Republicans. I also just want to agree that of the three entitlement programs that we discussed, Medicare is the one that needs the most attention and focus. Social Security. My own economist, my own organization put out a piece a week ago saying, Social Security is not a problem, don't worry about it, right? And so I think that the president's clearly made a political decision.
And you accept it, even though you can see it's not.
No, I'm explaining what he did. You asked me to explain what he did. And I think they've made a decision that they really are going to try very hard to get a deal. And look, it's not out of the realm of possibility, right? We're seeing progress on gun violence legislation. We're seeing bipartisan progress on immigration reform. The test will be that if we end up with three bills this year that are way to the right of center and don't achieve liberal, center-left
Is this a center-left issue, or is this an American? I mean, polls would suggest it's most Americans. Nancy.
Yeah. I'm so glad you said that. This is really, the American people are overwhelmingly united in this. AARP just came out with a poll that showed, and every poll shows this. They looked at voters 50 and over. 91% of Democrats, 80% of Republicans reject this. The American people, they're all in agreement, no chain CPI. They'd like the CPIE. It's the elites in Washington against the American
we're
people.
already running out of time, Sally. So let's once and for all discuss two things. First of all, what role does social security play?
Zero. It is the most responsible part of the federal budget. It is off budget. It has its own dedicated revenue. It has no borrowing authority. It is, and it cannot pay benefits unless it has income to cover the cost.
And as we look at the deficit, Ryan, which actually has been going down anyway over the last few years, but what did cause this deficit specifically, or at least much of it?
Well, I mean, most of the deficit was created by a couple of wars and some massive tax cuts, and several recessions brought about by bank crises and subsequent bailouts.
And so you see then, Simon, that's why we say, many people are saying, well, hang on. Actually, AFL-CIO has just come out, the union has just come out with a statement saying, a president's budget is more than just numbers. It's a profoundly moral document. We believe cutting Social Security benefits and shifting costs to Medicare beneficiaries while exempting corporate America from shared sacrifice is wrong and indefensible. It's this idea that President Obama, no matter what sort of deal he's trying to get, has accepted a fundamental framework where it's the poorest in society who pay for the tax cuts on the rich and the rich's wars, frankly, as well.
Well, I think the president wouldn't agree with that, right? And certainly not the language that he used today. And I think, look, part of the raw politics of this is that he's only in office a few more years. He wants to get things done. He's dealing with a pretty crazy Republican Party right now, and when he sits down and negotiates with these guys, he's got a very difficult set of decisions to make. On immigration reform, there's some things that he's going to accept that are just silly, frankly, and that it's not ideological left and right. It's just silly demands by the other side, which they've accepted as part of a deal. One could argue that this accepting change CPI is a silly concession, intellectually, ideologically,
silly,
but required politically in order to move forward. This is the art of politics, right? There's pragmatism here. He's clearly made a decision that a deal is within his grasp this year. He wants to do it.
Right.
This is the sign.
Well, we'll look at that pragmatism in a